Today we're going to talk about tourism. We'll look at why you study tourism. We'll also study the core theory of tourism, the basic theory, developed by researchers such as Leaper and Tribe. If we have time, we'll go into interdisciplinary studies that link tourism to other fields of study. First of all, why do you study tourism? Probably most of you will be studying tourism because you realise it's required to get a degree. Possibly you feel it may be useful for a future career, or perhaps you're simply motivated because you've decided it's an interesting area of study. Tourism is certainly having a very great impact on our world. This is something that Professor John Tribe recognises when he writes that tourism is the world's biggest industry and it attracts undergraduates in ever-increasing numbers. He raises the very interesting point that because tourism has a large impact on the world, tourism courses need to show students what this impact is. I'll just summarise for you this one paragraph from an article by Tribe, the philosophic practitioner. He says that the purpose of a course in tourism is to enable graduates to operate in their career. However, if we just focused on that alone, this would overlook an important feature of a big industry like tourism. Yes, it generates consumer satisfaction, employment and wealth, but tourism also leaves its imprint on the world in other ways. It creates an industrial landscape and causes changes to the social and economic relationships between people. When we develop tourism, we create what you could call a tourism society. This society is made up not just of tourism-associated businesses, but of all individuals, communities, governments, and the physical environments affected by tourism. So, a special responsibility is placed on education to make people aware of the important role tourism plays. Let's move on. What does tourism mean? In a theory of tourism put forward by Professor Leaper in his book Tourism Management, it is defined as travelling away temporarily on overnight trips and visiting places for leisure-related purposes. Leaper explains that there are a number of essential aspects to this definition, which I'll run through very briefly today. To begin with, tourism involves travelling away from home and expecting to return to your usual residence. The second point is that you must spend at least one night away. It is, after all, a time when you're away from home. Thirdly, tourism involves a TGR, and fourthly, a TDR. In other words, there is a place which the tourist comes from, the TGR or tourism generating region, and a destination, a place which the tourist goes to, the TDR or tourism destination region. So, if you live in London, then London is your TGR. If you live in Tokyo, then that is your TGR. That is where you would normally buy the resources that you require. You will buy your ticket there, you will buy your rucksack there, you will buy extra clothes, you will possibly even book hotels through an accommodation booking agency, which of course gets paid for that service. All right, the fourth point is that you would be visiting at least one, and possibly many more, tourist destinations. You might be taking just a single trip to one particular place. You might decide to go to Dubai and spend a week there. You might be doing a world tour, visiting many different places over a longer period of time. These are the destination regions, the TDRs. A fifth and very crucial aspect of tourism is that along the way you will be travelling via a transit route, by plane, boat, train or any other mode of transport. This transit route may be the same for the way over as for the way back, or it may be different. And as a tourist you have an impact on the transit route. Planes pollute the environment of countries they fly over, for instance. Cars make noise. Trains draw energy from valuable resources, etc. So, in summary, you travel from home for at least one night, prepare for your trip in your home area, travel to the tourist destination, and use a route to get there before you return home. Travel is one aspect of tourism, but you don't go somewhere just to come back. Another important point, and this is the sixth aspect of Leaper's theory, is that you will engage in leisure-related experiences. These are non-obligatory. You don't have to do them. They are personally pleasurable, recreational or creative. You may, for instance, decide to go snorkeling, lounge on the beach, or have a massage. To a certain degree, tourism has to do with leisure, which is why we often see leisure incorporated into tourism courses as well as hospitality. Whether we're talking about travel, leisure or hospitality, all tourism shows the culture of the generating regions, and most tourism involves a cultural exchange in the destination region. This is aspect number 7. As a tourist, you engage with a different culture. You're away from your own culture for a while. This gives rise to a lot of interesting theories about cultural exchange, learning more about yourself and learning more about the culture you go to. People often say that travel broadens the mind. What other aspects of tourism and hospitality are there? Well, why do you go anywhere? You're motivated to travel somewhere based on information that you've received one way or another about the destination. You've received this information either prior to your trip in the generating region, for instance by reading a book or looking on the internet, or possibly on the transit route, at airports for instance, or in the destination region, maybe at a tourist information office. So, information is Lipa's 8th point. The next point is that tourism involves change to your daily routine and activities. For a while, you experience a different way of life, a kind of time out, and you will be doing things that you may not normally do. Lipa's 10th point is that as a tourist, you expect that there will be a reasonable degree of security. You want the places you travel to tolerate tourist visitors and ideally be hospitable. This is where the link with hospitality comes in. Hospitality is extremely important in tourism because people need a sense of hospitality in order to feel comfortable in a place. Travelling can be quite stressful. You're in an unusual place, you don't know the people, and you may not know the language. There must be the sense that there is going to be a reasonable degree of personal security, otherwise people won't travel. The next point concerns finances. As a tourist, you will expect that your visit is going to be economically feasible and that the activity will be worth the money spent, otherwise you wouldn't have embarked on the journey in the first place. The final aspect is that tourists depend on the tourism industries, like hotels, accommodation providers, and the food and beverage industry. This is a bit of a grey area. Supermarkets, for instance, are not specifically aiming to foster or support tourism, but still, many tourists rely on them. So, this is the end of your journey. You've travelled from home, your TGR, and you've spent at least one night away, your TDR. You've travelled to your destination via a transit route. You've participated in leisure activities, experienced a different culture and a different daily routine. You've received information about your destination, either at home or on arrival. You've felt safe, secure and welcome. You feel that your money was well spent. You've used tourist facilities and hospitality businesses before finally returning home.